Hey guys, Tess here from www.itsyourtherapy.com, and I am a mental health counselor here in the area of Palm Beach and Broward County, Florida, and we are here to talk about triggers. So typically triggers are associated with addiction and patterns of addiction. So there are 6 categories we're going to talk about today, and these are work and or situations, celebrations, movies, TVs, media, music, ads that we see, physical, and then the focus of whatever it is that is your drug of choice or whatever you're addicted to. Or maybe that's something that you know. And I really, really stress that if this video is helpful, that you share this with your family, friends, and loved ones, those that have or know somebody that has been affected with addiction. So here's the first few for in the working situation. So that's going to be, is your triggering situation, well, first let's define a trigger. A trigger is when you crave that addictive behavior or substance and it feels like you just cannot control yourself. Like there's no turning back. Like once you've crossed over this barrier, there's no turning back. But right before that, there is an antecedent, and that antecedent is considered the trigger. Some people or some mental health counselors will call it an activating event. Others will call it an antecedent. Others will call it a trigger. There's multiple ways to describe it, but basically it's kind of like a hyperarousal for a craving for the addictive behavior or substance. So that could be going to work. You know, when you're on your way to work, is that a trigger for you? Is that when you typically use that substance or engage in that behavior? Or leaving work or during work? Certain hours of the day, whatever kind of rhythm or habit or groove that you've gotten into and you might use at certain times or around certain people or in certain places, and all of those would be considered triggers. Getting paid. So money is a big trigger for people. When you see that you have money or you have money in the bank and you know it's just sitting there and you don't have a real plan for it, which I definitely suggest, that will definitely help. But it could be a trigger because now you know that you have the funds available to go engage in that particular addictive behavior. Pressured to be used by coworkers or and this is specifically a work environment, but that can also be peers. And sometimes, honestly, it's not a pressure like peer pressure or anything like that. It's just that, you know, you don't want to disappoint that person, so you go along with them, or you do care about that person. And so there's like this automatic response that if we care about somebody, we're going to want to be liked by them. And so even if it's subconsciously, we kind of just go along with what they're doing or what we believe that they need from us or want us to be, and then that just contributes to our going along with behaviors that really are not us, which kind of brings up the point of what can you do if that is the case for you. And if it is the case, then working on yourself and who you are and developing an identity that you feel is true to you is going to be a really great step in overcoming your addiction. So that's just a little sidebar. And the next thing is coworkers using, or this could be peers using, family members using, anybody that's in your inner circle, especially if they're using. It could also be you seeing their friends use or seeing other people use, and you might not be close to those people in relationships, but maybe they're in your environment or they're in close enough proximity where you know of it and you're mindful of it, and therefore it's a trigger because now your brain has seen it, and that's enough of a visual and a realness that your brain goes ding, ding, ding. Your hypothalamus goes, I know how to get out of this emotion, or I know how to feel better, and I can go, you know, engage in this behavior and feel great because I remember that feeling, and your hypothalamus will do that. But that's a whole nother video, the actual biological component. Really interesting. Dr. Montez has a great video, and if you guys are interested, I can also do a video and give you my spin on it, how the addiction relates to your body physically and how we've been able to discover and define it as a physical disease. And let's keep going. So cocaine available at work, or drugs available at work, any other drugs. sex available at work, somebody that you're attracted to, and, it could just be the attention that you're addicted to. It could be a relationship. It could be a friend relationship. You're addicted to that relationship because without them, you don't feel like you can be yourself, or that you feel empty or alone and you don't know who you are without these other things filling up your life. That is another big trigger for a lot of people. And certain shifts, like certain shifts of your work, or just certain, like I was saying, rhythms of your day. So if you have different patterns or grooves that you're getting into, I really challenge you even now to just even stop this video and write that stuff down. Where are my triggering points of the day? What are some times of the day that I engage in this behavior, and get a little bit more mindful and aware of those moments so that you can decide what you want to do in those moments instead. Maybe the opposite, or get around new people, new places, new things that will fill up your life in a different way during those times. The celebration. So that is a big one for a lot of people. If they get anxiety around family events, for example, or different things that are coming up for them that they have that fear of or just get anxious about, anxiety is a trigger. And weekends. Weekends are typically really unstructured. And without structure, that can be a big trigger too, because our minds are not busy doing the thing that we are going to do next, or thinking about the thing that we're going to do next, and it's not occupied. So it's kind of like idle hands. So idle mind, idle hands, then it could lead to boredom, or just like your mind will go back to, that feel good. So your body wants to be stimulated, or your mind wants to be stimulated. Mind is connected to your body. So if you're not doing something to stimulate your mind, then your body and your mind will look for something to stimulate it, whether it's pain or pleasure, but it will look for some kind of stimulation. And there has been evidence-based studies around this issue. If you're interested in it, you can message me and I can find the study for you and send it to you. The next thing is having a good day. So some people think, oh, well, it triggers having a bad day, or having, negative emotions, but sometimes it's having positive emotions, feeling really good, feeling happy, and just wanting to feel better. Sometimes it's having a great day and wanting to make the day a little bit better, or being content and kind of letting yourself not be stimulated towards like your goals, and being on guard of what your brain can do when it's not actively pursuing something. Or in something actively pursuing, it's not like I'm saying, oh, go, 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 be on the run, be ambitious. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, have goals, have dreams, have a purpose in what you're doing. And that can be even to rest. Like if my purpose is to rest for this hour, I would suggest blocking time in your day to keep that structure, so that you have time that feels productive, even when you might not be doing quote unquote productive things, but resting is definitely productive. And there's also studies on that show, sleep and resting really benefit your brain a lot. And we need those times as well. Winning at some activity. So maybe you won something and you want to celebrate, and you usually drink when you celebrate, and drinking is, or alcohol is, your drug of choice. And so that can be a real trigger for people. So what do you do to celebrate? What are some things in your life that you are winning at, and what are you doing to reward yourself? And weddings or other special occasions, good news, also bad news, and good things happening to you. Oh, let's go back to good news, bad news. So, and I love how Tony Robbins says this, like, don't make things worse than they are. And often see them as they are, not worse than they are. But also I want to say them as they are, not better than they are, because then we're in denial of what the real situation is. And if we're in denial about something, there's no problem to find, and therefore we can't find a solution, or we're not in a position to find a solution for the problem. So it's important to acknowledge the problems. If you are hearing good news or bad news, our minds label the news bad news or good news. It's just news. It's something that you hear, but the meaning that we give to that news is what creates the emotional reaction that we're going to have. Like if you hear that your brother has a baby, that might trigger a sad emotion, because you're like, well, I can't have babies, or maybe you're jealous, and that's the emotion that's triggered because you were thinking I can't have babies. versus your brother has a baby and then you say, oh wow, like I'm so happy for him, he's so happy, I'm so happy that he's happy, and I get to be an aunt or an uncle, and a birth, a life, or I just had a loss and now there's this birth of life, and what an adorable little baby, and I can't wait to hold it, and all these other things. So it's the same situation, your brother having a baby, but you're thinking about it differently, and the emotions that follow your thoughts are different in the way that you think. So hopefully that makes sense. And so the same thing, like good things happening to you or good things happening for you, or are they happening to me or are they happening for me? Are they bad things? These are all things that we interpret, and they're more on a subconscious level. So it's not as easy, obviously, as it sounds, but to start identifying some of these situations that we label as good or bad, I really want to challenge you to not label good and bad, or at least be aware when you use those all or nothing polar opposite words, and ask yourself, is it really good or is it really bad? What else could it be? That's the question. What else could it be? So I'm saying it's good, but what are the feelings that I get? Like, be in tune with yourself, what you're thinking, what comes up for me when I think about my brother having a baby, and making the goal being getting in touch with your feelings, not, reacting to what you formula. There's a word that I want to say. Formulably. It's like formally would have said a word along those lines. But you get what I mean. So prior to the actual event that you are, or once the event happens, what you are believing about it. Okay. The third subject is music, TV, movies, and media. So certain kinds of music are very stimulating and activating to the hypothalamus. Like maybe you always used to smoke cannabis and listen to this type of music, or sell drugs and you listen to this type of music, or binge eat and listen to this kind of music, or do this activity. Those things, our brain associates these intense emotions with the behavior. So the goal then is to break the behavior or break the association. So not doing that activity for a while, not listening to that song or that music for a while, not watching that show for a while. Like whatever you associate with that addictive behavior, separate yourself from the people, places, and things, the environments that would remind your brain, oh, we remember this scenario and I associate that with this addictive behavior or substance over here. Okay. So TV shows, went over that. News report about your drug of choice. So just basically reading about it, hearing about it. Rock concerts, especially huge for a lot of drugs and people that use drugs. And MTV is another one. I don't even know if there is MTV anymore. I have not heard that in so long. This is an old copy of Trigger Situations I'm reading from here. Ads for your drug of choice, whether it be alcohol or cannabis now, because it's legal in some states, or food, or love relationships, romantic relationships, whatever you can think of, whatever it is that your addiction is. For over-the-counter drugs, even. People are abusing these days. For vacations, having that vacation mentality, like I drink a margarita on the beach or something, and then, or it's a hot day and you could really use a cold one, kind of thing. And dating services. So there's always advertisements for those. And if sex or relationships are an issue for you and you tend to get over involved, or it starts to create turmoil in your life, then obviously those would be a trigger. And clubs. So, and you know what these are specifically for you. So again, I challenge you and really hope that you take the suggestion of writing down what are the people, what are the places, and what are the things that trigger me and my drug of choice. What do I associate with my drug of choice? And physical. So maybe you're not feeling well. Maybe that's a trigger for you, because typically, if we feel pain, we want pleasure. Our addiction gives us pleasure until it doesn't give us pleasure. But at the time, it is an immediate takeaway. And so we lean towards that, and that is definitely a trigger. Fatigue, pain, lack of sleep, feeling sick, and hunger. AA, or Alcohol Anonymous, uses the word halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So if you're any of those things, then those are big predictors, especially like the 4 stars, like all of them, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Most likely you're going to want to look for something to make you feel better. And that is your drug of choice or your addictive behavior. And then the last thing is when the focus of whether it be the conversation or the involvement in something is around your drug of choice. So if everybody's at the birthday party and or they're having like a potluck, or they're going to tea, but it's all dessert related, and so there's just like tons and tons of desserts, and you're even communing with people that are engaging in your drug of choice. Maybe it's not theirs, maybe this is a special day for them, but for you, sugar just makes you go AWOL, and so you eat the sugar, and then you go home, you have even more sugar and binge, and it just starts your whole like binging sugar cycle over again. Or obviously parties, or multiple things, being around that drug of choice, listening to others talking about it, thinking about it, just in your own mind, just kind of observing your own thoughts and letting yourself kind of go towards, oh yeah, that would be nice, and fantasizing about it, even gloating about it to some people, like, oh, back in the day I used to, roll with such and such, and we used to tip over cows together, or like whatever, like fun memory that makes you look good in front of other people. Like maybe you're glorifying those days. And I challenge you to look for new opportunities to glorify yourself and make yourself feel validated and worthy, because those stories hopefully are old stories, and you can make new ones, and you'll be just as significant. And that's kind of like recalling those old highs too. And so we fantasize, like, even if it's alone, like, I just can't wait to get home and drink that bottle of wine, or whatever it is. Notice those thoughts, practice, they call it in CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, thought stopping. And I raise up my hand because this also helps me, like with a visual. A kinetic learner will do more movements, but if you use all 3, like visual, and then kinetic and audio, and you're like, stop, like even say it out loud, like stop, then it really breaks the pattern of your thinking. And then you want to replace that with something else, like anything else. You can do push-ups, something physical. You can journal, write something down and see it physically, and read it back to yourself. Write a quote, call a friend. There's multiple ways to combat these triggers. This video is about triggers, so I'm going to try to keep it shorter than the 20 minutes. But if you want to learn about coping skills and what you can do to combat these triggers, then I definitely want to recommend my video about that. All right. And hopefully you are having a blessed day, and I will see you guys all next time.